On Thursday this week, the U.S. government announced a raft of sanctions targeting, among others, the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, her husband, Moses Magogo, former Deputy CDF, Lieutenant General Peter Elwelu, former Ministers for Karamoja Affairs, Goreti Kitutu and Agnes Nandutu, as well as the State Minister for Finance, Amos Lugolobi, and their spouses. The U.S. State Department pegged the sanctions to significant corruption activities and gross violations of human rights. Before this, the UK had made similar measures. But for his part, Information Minister Dr Chris Baryomunsi says the grounds being presented for the sanctions appear to be a cover-up.
But the main reason behind this is most likely the law which we passed on homosexuality that is irking them, that is annoying them, but they fear to say so, and then they use the veneer of corruption.
Dr Baryomunsi adds that the government has adequate internal mechanisms to handle corruption.
It is not the UK, it is not the US to fight corruption for us. As a government, we do fight corruption, but also we are methodical. We don't act by impulse.
For her part, the Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Governance, Dr Sarah Birete, welcomed the sanctions, noting that they are an indication that national mechanisms to handle corruption, human rights violations and impunity had failed.
That our national processes have failed to check growing impunity in the country. And this calls for the actions of the partners. I have been advocating for sanctions and I support sanctions.
Dr Birete says multiple sanctions against the Speaker could have great implications and should be carefully handled before the situation gets out of hand.
Number 3 has been sanctioned. Tomorrow it might be number 2 or number 1. As a citizen, I don't want to live in a country under sanctions because I know what it means. President Museveni, please fight impunity, fight corruption, fight abuse of human rights. Every Ugandan deserves to live in a democratic country. In South Africa, when there was an investigation on the Speaker for crimes committed when she was a Minister of Defense, she stepped down immediately. The only sensible thing for the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament is to step down.
But didn't the sanctions come too early, especially for those individuals whose cases are before the courts of law?
If you have US sanctions, they follow the US system. They don't follow the Ugandan system. So it doesn't matter whether people are before court or not. They have their own processes, they have their own laws, and they are simply saying, we are displeased with your conduct. Please don't come to our country and don't trade with our people.
And the court has not yet passed a verdict. So how then do you come and say we are issuing sanctions because these people are corrupt when?
It remains to be seen what those who suffered the sanctions have to do to be freed of these punitive measures. Benjamin Jumbe, NTV Weekend Edition.